I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
Was it, in truth and in effect, the moderators and Kamala versus Trump? Was it the point where triviality usurped Armageddon as a talking point? What do we care more about? Cats being eaten or a potential nuclear war? Let me know in the comments and the chat who you thought won and how you felt in particular it was moderated. Is it going to be chalked off as another victory for the legacy media? It's one of those moments when you have to recognize that indeed America is a divided land. You will know if you look across a variety of media sources that the Democrats are likely hailing this as an astonishing victory, that Kamala was forthright and strong. Personally, what I felt while watching it live for our live watch along party with beloved Bear there was that we moved between generalizations and generalities, and when we got into the specificity of policy, it felt lost and adrift in the midst of peculiar emotional grandstanding and performance. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think. These are some of the posts on X that I think give you a flavor of how this has been viewed in what you might call right-wing spaces, given that the first one is Matt Walsh. Ironically, the moderators are winning this debate for Trump by being so insanely lopsided and biased against him. They're now the story of the night, which is a win for Trump. Of course, there is a good deal of lopsidedness, particularly on the behalf of ABC's most famous lopsided, sideways-facing anchor, David Muir. Gutfeld, a friend of the show, says, this debate is no longer about Trump versus Harris. It's about moderators obediently picking a side. ABC is a shit show. Let me know in the comments and chat. Do you think we'll see another debate now? Is it likely that there'll be a Fox debate? Heaven forbid, an online debate. Imagine this debate on Rumble. Imagine if a journalist like Glenn Greenwald here, who says David Muir is criticizing and attacking Trump more than Kamala can relax because the ABC moderators are handling the debate for her. I mean, if you want to see a moment where it becomes sort of perfectly clear that what we're operating in is a curated space, it's this one, I think, when the subject of race is brought to the forefront. Remember, it's that the questions that are asked sets the tone. The questions that are not asked reveal the agenda. Because in a sense, don't you really want to ultimately address economic decline, ideological despair, and potential approaching Armageddon? Try to hold those issues in mind, and which candidate do you believe does a better job of representing those issues? Many of us believe in anti-establishment candidates, and that's how Trump was regarded in 2016. I know many of you adore Trump to this day, and many of us are mobilized by the entry of RFK, in spite of the areas where you would say, oh, well, it doesn't he seem to be in line with interest, for example, when it comes to Middle Eastern issues, precisely because he is a person that will continually identify the problems of big food, the problems of big pharma, the problems of lobbying and the donor class, the very kind of institutions and interests that I suppose all of us are mentally referencing when we think of a phrase like drain the swamp. Let me know in the comments and in the chat, do you think this was classic Trump, the Trump of you'd be in jail, the Trump of the 2016 or 2015 rather primaries, or do you feel that something has been lost? And if so, do you think that's because of the moderation, or do you think that something else is at play? Let's have a look at the moment where race was brought to the forefront, and I would say that potentially this is one of the indicators of ABC bias. But hey, let me know. We're trying to maintain our own neutrality over here.
Thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Now, the reason I point this out is precisely because it's a moment that is contentious. It's a moment that, in a sense, what can Donald Trump say here that's going to be positive, that's going to advance the conversation, that's going to look anything other than unpleasant? Whether or not there was deliberate and definitive collusion between the Kamala campaign and the ABC moderators is, in a sense, secondary, because as your great George Carlin says, where interests align, conspiracy is unnecessary. If interests converge, it's already a type of conspiracy. What we have is an institutional conspiracy, and the successes of early Trump were based on the sense that through his bombast, occasional hubris and error, he still represented a force that was going to be disruptive. Do you believe he still represents that force? And will it be possible for that force to succeed, as these institutions seem to be able to manage the space excellently? And by manage the space, I mean keep the focus on issues that my personal position is that subject don't put Trump in a good light. When Trump is succeeding is when you're talking about, hold on, why are we talking about cats and whether or not people are eating cats when potentially we might all be eating one another's pets in a post-apocalyptic nightmare?
I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less.
In a way, that is the kind of... Is that not the desired attitude when it comes to race? Like, when I think of my personal position, I want to not care. I want to be beyond it. I recognise there are complex histories and issues, cultural and racial identity issues that are playing out across the world. But what would be the vision? Surely it's a transcendent attitude towards race. So I suppose many of you will think, oh, well, that was a good response. But the question itself, why do you think it's now? Look, I'm going to take a sideways look at you. And from this eye of mine, from this my little judgmental eye, I'm going to ask you, why did you feel it was necessary to do that? Come on.
Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking...
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
We'll continue with that in a matter of moments. But first, a quick word from our partners at the Wellness Company. America, listen up. First, a massive COVID-19 spike with 1.29 million cases reported daily. Then the World Health Organization declares monkeypox a global health emergency. What will they do next? Well, apparently it's going to be a bird flu summit. These aren't just coincidences. It seems that they're calculated moves to keep us fearful and controlled. Would you agree? Were you prepared for the last pandemic? 48% of Americans don't have any emergency supplies ready. We saw how the medical and pharmaceutical industries failed us last time. Are we going to count on them again this time? It's time to take control. Get the Contagion Emergency Kit from the Wellness Company. It's packed with ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, and budesonide, and a nebulizer. The treatments they apparently didn't want you to have. A few clicks, and this kit will be at your door. Act now, protect your family, be proactive, and be prepared. Order your Contagion Emergency Kit today. Visit twc.health/brand. Use the promo code BRAND at checkout to save $30. That's twc.health/brand and use the code BRAND to claim your discount. These kits are limited and only available in the United States of America. God bless America. Let's get back to the content.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
Honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Surely our collective responsibility is to maintain a focus on the macro issues. Are we on the precipice of Armageddon? Are we, through globalization, seeing increasing technocracy and centralization of power continually legitimized by crisis? Did something extraordinary take place with the usurping and replacement of Biden? Was that a strategic move that looks to be successful? And if indeed it is a success, what does that tell us about the true nature of politics? That one minute we're told Biden is fine, don't criticize his age, there's nothing wrong with him. And then we pivot to a campaign that's about, oh, look, Trump is old. Like, I bet you'll see in liberal spaces a lot of talk about Trump's age and whether or not Trump, like the vitality of Kamala. And in a way, the line that runs down the center of the screen to divide the two candidates is almost not metaphorical. There's almost two literal worlds available to us where we can consume distinct and separate biased information that is favorable to enforcing the biases that we already possess. But what seems to me to be excluded by the frame of the screen are incredibly important issues about power, about war, and how those issues, in a sense, nullify and cuckold all of us when it comes to personal freedom and even something as diffuse, rare, and abstract as hope. Hope. Do you remember when everything was about hope? For a moment at the outset of the debate, it was even extraordinary to see the two candidates in the same frame. I sort of watching it live with my dog was almost like it was like sighting a Yeti and a Loch Ness Monster. I'm not making claims about either of the candidates. It seemed like an anathema to see them in the same space. They're such disparate and distinct individuals. And yet, from the Overton window perspective, look at the issues that are being discussed and look at the issues that aren't being discussed. For example, when the pandemic came to the forefront, it was fascinating to see the amount of restrictions. But let's first have a look at the initiation of the entire debate, the ceremonial handshake that must precede such matters.
To the stage, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
Let's hope it's spirited and thoughtful, and let's hope we don't get distracted or are not unduly biased. Let's hope that we don't set up questions that entirely appear to be designed, at least, to favor one of the candidates. Now, let's get on with that now. Donald Trump, why are you such a racist bastard, you son of a bitch, you? The very much let's be unburdened by what might have been appears to be let's turn the page on this, let's not go back. It was a night when a new catchphrase was launched. Those of us thinking that the let's be unburdened by what might have been, those of us that are beginning to miss that now can enjoy let's turn the page, let's not go back, and see yourself turning a page and very much going forwards.
This election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have.
One of the things that doesn't appear to matter is when you hear Trump condemned for saying, for example, there will be a bloodbath, or another example is I'll be a dictator, but for only a day. The full clips are available. You can see that in the bloodbath example, he's talking about trade tariffs to China, and in the dictator for a day example, he's making a joke about the wall and about drilling. What Trump's detractors and attackers will say is that he's using a kind of live mnemonic device where he's dropping words like bloodbath, painting a kind of vivid picture filled with verbal sigils that evoke ideas of Armageddon. But that's not what I feel is happening. I think he has a very particular rhetorical style. And I think that we've gotten to a point of such mutual hysteria that we're kind of electing out of some kind of mutual shared will to remain unconscious, to properly track the fact that bizarre events have taken place in the run-up to this election. It's not that long ago there was an assassination attempt. It appears the likelihood of war is increasing hourly, and that because of affiliations with global alliances, whether that's in the example I'm using now, NATO, those issues aren't being correctly brought to the forefront. They came up once or twice, but do you think that they were vigorously interrogated? One of the moments, I suppose, that we are ultimately going to have to look at as being a tactical triumph for Kamala is bringing up Trump's rallies. You can say what you want about Trump. You can suggest that he reveres dictators. You can criticize his skin color, his hair, and his hands. But at your peril, will you say that people walk out of these rallies?
And I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
A little bit of a Biden moment there around needs and desires, but the idea that Trump rallies are especially detached from reality in an environment like that one, like during an ABC presidential debate, is a rather audacious claim, because what, in a sense, the entire endeavor is about is are we able to channel to you such a strong, illusory schema that you'll be distracted from your actual reality? Probably our obligation, do excuse me, both as participants in democracy and in the ongoing communication that new media provides, is a rigorous attempt to maintain an understanding of what is real. Or maybe all of us will become like Joe Biden in Trump's estimation, uncertain that we're even alive, unsure of what's important. Was Afghanistan, was that a good thing? Was it a good withdrawal? Is it a sin that the Taliban were invited to Camp David? Is it necessary to talk to your enemies in order to achieve peaceful resolutions to any conflict? What do we expect of our leaders at this point? What is it that you want? Is it that you want them to somehow resonate with an emotional state that you have? And is that why continually we're invited to contemplate emotional and difficult to reconcile issues? Obviously among them abortion. Or is it that what we want is a clear, delineated vision of what America could be? And I'm not sure that we saw that from either candidate. Is that what you expect from a debate? Is that the function of a debate? And if it isn't, because could it be that, then what is this that we're participating in mutually together? It's kind of, it might as well be some sort of tribal dance, ceremonially significant, but in terms of its content, rather confusing to assess.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
Another example of the moderators biasing the proceedings in a general way towards favourable outcomes to Kamala. Would you agree?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
Like, that's the kind of things I like. There's no reason to go. There's no reason to go.
And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back.
Are you surprised that you didn't hear more of the significant and extraordinary event that took place, like a month ago, 6 weeks ago? Was it a century ago? An assassination attempt that for a minute appeared like it would change the entire direction of the campaign. At the RNC, it seemed more like a coronation. And then after the switch, the Biden-Kamala switch, the news cycle moves at such a giddying and bilious pace. It's like that never happened. I thought we would see more references to this event, but here is a reference to the assassination attempt.
That weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Actually, when you watch it as clips rather than watching it live, when it's sort of overwhelming in some ways because of the vast scope of subjects and the weird array of emotions and tactics and performance styles, you can see that Trump is more focused on bringing to the forefront. Aren't we dealing with like a lot of a cacophony of absolute madness? And you can also, I think, identify that the moderation is continually, gently creating favourable circumstances for Kamala. When I'm watching these things live, I don't know what happens to me. It's like when I enter a supermarket, I think the sort of the lighting and the sort of the stimulation of the situation disorients me. Watching it now, you can see that Trump appears to be navigating back to, like, aren't we on the precipice of a global war? And of course there are like sort of mad glitching moments, like where we're talking about sort of cats being eaten and stuff like that. But I suppose overall what you get and what you have, I think, in the figure of Kamala Harris is a newly minted cipher of the message of the establishment that is functioning better than establishment candidate retro model Joe Biden on a beach somewhere in bed when you wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You have a better vessel for the anodyne, sanitary, culture fixated Democratic Party model. I suppose, I'm able to sort of discern it a little clearer, like in retrospect, I suppose. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.